Hello, and thank you for joining me on another of my interviews. Now, I'm very excited in talking to the two gentlemen today because it's not often we get some good news in this war pushing back against the tyranny that's been forced on us. You may remember a couple of months ago now, I think it was, I spoke to three gentlemen, Mike, Bob, and Kris from Thetford in Norfolk. And at that time, they'd had a very engrossed meeting with the mayor, and then it went to the council the county council meeting, and we were all very interested to see how the public of Thetford were pushing back against these low traffic neighbourhoods, or the 20-minute neighbourhoods as they'd often been described as. Well, as a result of that, a number of the members of the public of Thetford have managed to get into the council, or at least we're applying to become parts of the council, realising this might be a good way of preventing the council from just running roughshod on them. Well, I'm very pleased to bring back to the show Kris Brooks and another gentleman, Gary Conway, to tell us about what's been happening, because we have some good news. Hello, gents.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Vogt.
Nice to be back.
It's lovely to have you. Now, I garbled that little intro there, so maybe you can tell us exactly what is going on. Just for those people watching, the gentleman on the left of your screen is Gary Conway, and the gentleman on the right is Kris Brooks. And Kris, you're the one who filmed the initial meeting, or the confrontation, I should say, with the Lady Mayor, which started the ball rolling on all of this.
Yes, that's very correct. And in fact, I spoke to her at one of the council meetings not that long ago, and I felt really bad for her because she said that after watching that video, she's just got a bottle of wine and cried all night.
Did she? That's, I mean, because what? She realised what she was doing?
I don't necessarily know if it was that or just how she was portrayed.
Well, she portrayed herself, didn't she? To be honest, with you. Nobody else had her arm up her back, going, "Oh no, you can't have this." But
what I found fascinating about that was that this was the mayor of Thetford that addressed this group of the public, and as you're suggesting, she didn't really make any friends at that meeting.
No.
The elections back in May, she didn't get re-elected to the town council, but the guy behind the camera did.
That is fascinating, and that is part of the success story that we've got to tell. So, Kris,
yes,
you both, I understand, applied to become members of the council, and Kris, I don't know the process, so you're going to have to tell us how that all works, actually. But you've managed to get in. You are now one of the top councillors. We have to be very humble to you and be very careful what we say in case you come down on us like a ton of bricks. That's kind of the thing.
Top,
right?
but I'm a councillor.
You're a councillor. So what's the process then for those people like me who are quite ignorant, really? The council do their thing, and I don't really know how you get involved because it's never really been something I've aspired to. Although in recent times, you start thinking actually maybe we should be much more involved. What's the process?
Well, we're really lucky, to be fair, because we only campaigned for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
we'd already missed the postal vote, so it was just pumping out information on our campaign videos, and which was very hard work. And yeah, it's just about getting yourselves out there, getting yourself heard. 13 of us, was it 13?
13 candidates, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to fill out all your forms. Then what happens there? I'm a bit blasé with the whole situation, to be honest.
Well, as you suggested, we had these series of meetings. We had the first meeting where we basically invaded a scheduled town council meeting, and we put out some leaflets around the town for that. And we were expecting 10, 20 people to turn up to this meeting because we'd heard rumours that Thetford was going to be trialled as a 20-minute neighbourhood, which was absolutely ridiculous for anybody that knows Thetford. So that was a phenomenally successful meeting, which went viral with Kris's video, as we've said. Further to that, as you said, we had the town council, the district council meeting with district councillors in attendance. And off the back of that meeting, we kind of realised we're not going to get the answers from these people that we want. as you can imagine, it was all sort of equivocation and sort of hedging bets, and we've got no current plans and with enough wriggle room to drive a bus through. Although the head of paid services from Norfolk County Council blessed us with his presence at that meeting. And we really were blessed because that guy is on more money than the Prime Minister. Which
Gosh.
Well, yeah. And he let slip a very telling phrase, I thought. He said, never say never in that meeting. So we came away from that meeting having not really learned anything. And we just decided, if you want something done properly, you've got to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened to be good timing that 4 or 5 weeks after that meeting, there was local elections being held. So a few of us got together over a beer and we thought, yeah, why not? And the process itself, to answer your question, is it couldn't be more straightforward. You just get your forms from your district council website, nomination forms. You just put your name in, and you have to qualify by living in the area or working in the area. You don't have to pay any money to do it. Anybody can do it. So it's very, very straightforward. And one of the things we want to try and get the message out about is that it is that easy to do.
Right.
People think that these councils or governments or politicians are almost like gods that sort of sit on high and pass down these crazy schemes to the people, whereas actually it's not like that at all. Anybody can put themselves forward.
So do you think your notoriety of this particular event helped get you noticed enough so that people did vote for you?
I think that must have played a part somewhere, must have done. But I think generally speaking, the majority of people have just had enough, all across the board, not just Thetford, but everywhere. So I think that probably helped just as much, if I'm honest.
Is it a yearly thing, the bringing in of new councillors, or the applications?
There's different tiers of council. So the lowest tier is town council, or if you're in a village, it'll be your parish council. And then you've got your district council above that, which is in this area is Breckland Council. And then above that, you've got your county council. And they all do them at different times. So the elections we've just done was town and district, and they're every 4 years. And then I think the county one is also every 4 years, but it's staggered.
So it was quite crucial then that you got in at that point. When it was serendipity, really, that that meeting that brought the notoriety that perhaps woke a lot more people up. Then you had the May elections, and there you are in Absolutely. There, because otherwise 4 years down the line it might be too late.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you feel the same, that all through this process it was a very intense 4 or 5 weeks, as you can imagine. But we always felt like there was synchronicities happening, that this was meant to be, just the timing of the election when it came along. And we're a relatively small group of people that grew out of a stand in the park here in Thetford that took exception to these plans for 20-minute cities. But amongst that small group, we had precisely the skill set we wanted. If we had to go out and pay for consultants or something to do the tasks that we needed, we couldn't have got better people. We had a young lady, Gemma, who's fantastic at leaflet design. So she managed to do a leaflet for us, which we put out to 8,000 properties around the town.
She's genuinely a good, just an all-round organizer.
Yeah, you do need
a huge credit.
Good organisation. That's key. Otherwise, you end up leafleting the same house 3 times and you miss half the street up the road.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we had the gentleman here, Councillor Kris, who has got fantastic filming skills with LSB film production to tackle it from that side, from sort of social media and video side. And everybody involved did something, whether it was just putting leaflets through a door or a poster in a window.
And they're all very good researchers.
Yeah, they know their stuff.
So there you are. You managed to get in, Kris.
Yeah.
And you become a councillor. Were you sort of excited, worried, nervous? How many other councillors were in? How many people managed to get through?
Well, from our side, just me.
Just you, right.
Me. And I felt like a turkey that had caught Bernard Matthew Winkinane. I mean, to be fair, it was Gary that on a text message said, or on the WhatsApp group chat, just saying, let me be the first person to congratulate Councillor Kris Brooks. And I thought he was joking, because I only ever really put down to be a paper candidate just to...
Right. Oh, I see.
And so, yeah, shocked. But within the month that I've been a counsellor, I would say it's been a positive. I've had a positive experience so far.
Oh, brilliant. So
Yeah.
there is some good news to tell us now, because something rather magical has happened.
Yeah, we sent a letter to the Norfolk County Council with regards to the letter that they sent to us, and basically saying things along the line of that whilst we encourage more cycling and more walking, we're dead against the 20-minute neighbourhood scheme coming to Thetford. They're dead against the restriction of any car movement and any fines or penalties for using your car, which, from my point of view, was the mission.
Right. So does that mean it won't happen?
This is politics. I'd like to think not, but we're certainly not putting our foot on the brakes, are we? We're
No,
full throttle.
It's still just the beginning, really. And it's a fantastic win in and of itself. Just from the point of view that it keeps pressure on them.
Yes.
So now it's in black and white, basically. So the second meeting that I mentioned with the gentleman, Tom McCabe, who came down from the council, very well-paid gentleman, he undertook to go away from that meeting and send us a letter to outline that they have no plans for 20-minute cities. So this is the letter that Kris has replied to as part of the Thetford Town Council. Again, sort of re-emphasising that this is not going to happen. No restrictions, no ANPR cameras, no road closures, all of that kind of thing. So it's a massive win from that point of view. It's just you can't trust them.
No. That is very true. And if they're being lent on, and no doubt they'll use every trick in the book that they can. But in the meantime, you've obviously woken up your community. And your community at no point, I can imagine, is going to say, oh, yeah, we'd love to have some cameras and a few bits of restrictions and have to walk everywhere and never be allowed in our vehicles. I mean, you've made that perfectly clear now within the community, presumably, and they're all on your side. Most of them, I imagine this.
Most of them.
Yeah. I was amazed at the support that we had. It's a real hot topic issue. And that first meeting where we had, as I said, it was just a regular town council meeting. And I would encourage anybody around the country or around the world, if you've got something like this in your town happening, just look to see when your next council meeting is on their website and get the people down there, get people to protest. This was, as I say, just a regular scheduled meeting for the town council in a normal meeting room, and so many people turned up. They packed the room. They were spilling out down the stairs in the building and out onto the street, and we had to go and find a bigger venue for that first meeting. So there's massive public opposition to 20-minute neighbourhoods, which I think one of the things that what we've done is achieve that is maybe not such a positive is that it's woken up the councils and the people implementing these things, that there is great public opposition out there, that they're not going to be able to do this without people putting up a bit of a fuss. So I think what we might see is quietly dropping the term 20-minute neighbourhoods, because it's such a trigger word, and instead you'll see the introduction of pedestrianised areas or walking zones or more cycle lanes, and they'll just, or actually in Norfolk County Council, so they've written this letter to say there's going to be no 20-minute there's no plans for 20-minute neighbourhoods. At exactly the same time they were doing that, just last week in Thetford, they were holding a roadshow about making a walking zone, a pedestrian zone in Thetford, and increasing cycle lanes. So they're kind of doing it under a different name. And a rose by any other name still smells off.
Yes. Well, we know that this whole concept is a globalist agenda. And these people aren't stupid, and they know that people are going to protest, and there'll be, what should we say, little wins in little places. And they must have worked out a plan for that. They're not just going to think, oh, we'll just say it's a 20-minute city, it'll be fine, they'll all go along with it. And it won't quite be that easy, so that one can't help feeling that they already know or they already have a plan to counteract these. You know, and I'm not belittling at all what you've done, because it's very heroic, but at the same time, you know, you can't help feeling that the McNastys in this world have already planned for that occasion. Do you think?
I do believe that, but I also believe that there's enough resistance now that whatever they throw at us, they're going to be met. It's not going to be easy for them. It's not going to be plain sailing like it may have done pre the video that we done. So they know that they're going to be met with difficulty, which is a good thing. And hopefully the more and more light that is shed on this, not just in Thetford, but across the UK, then the more light that's shed on it, the harder it's going to be for them to get their wicked way.
Yes, because soon, otherwise they have to expose themselves as sheer dictators. You know, the subtlety would have to go out of the window, in which they just say, we're doing it, you're having it, whatever. And at which point the rest of the population who were asleep would be jolted awake and going, hang on a second, this is not how life normally runs.
That's right. And the other good thing about going on the council is that the majority of the councillors on there are all first-time councillors. So,
are they?
So for Thetford, it's nice to have fresh blood, for want of a better word. So that, I think that helps. And they all seem like a good bunch of people, to be fair. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this rolls out.
I'm worried he's going to get assimilated.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, does that make you change your mind about? Well, I guess the low-level councillors, the beginning councillors, before they've sort of worked their way up the system and have got pressure and blackmail and goodness knows what going against them, or just the idea of more money or any money. Does it give you a different perspective on those people in other councils that are doing things? Are they just ignorant of the bigger scheme? Or do you think that many councillors are on board with what the overall plan is?
I don't think any councillor per se would want to see themselves restricted or their families restricted in any way. So I think it does come down to maybe peer pressure.
Right.
Or whether what they would vote on. But from what I've seen, I mean, like I say, I've only been in it a month, and I've only attended a handful of meetings. But from what I've seen, we all seem to be pretty much on the same wavelength. I mean, we vetoed the request for a 5G mast, not only just because it's situated in a place of, what's the word? Historic? Not historic.
Special scientific interest?
Yeah. But also because of the potential harms that it could have on the human body. So that surprised me, to be fair. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, so obviously word is getting out, and that wasn't necessarily from us. That's just that's what's being said. So I'm quietly optimistic, but watch this space. But my job really is to report back with what is going on to the members of public who wouldn't ordinarily find out. So I don't want to say I'm a spy, because that's not the right
word. That's one of the main reasons we were so pleased, the rest of the group, that was of the 13 candidates, if we had to get one in, the one we would have wanted would have been Kris. But whether he agrees with that or not, I'm not sure. But he's the perfect person to be the eyes and the ears of the people in the council. And he can tell us what's going on, and he can tell us what's coming down the line as well, so that we can be sort of forewarned and forearmed.
Have you been contacted by other councils or members of, or other councillors from different parts of the country who are interested in what you've achieved?
Not from councils, but I've had a lot of people on my YouTube channel saying, oh, what's your method? How do you do it? Somebody wants us to go and speak to them in Doncaster. So yeah, people are definitely interested.
Yeah.
Which is really good. Yeah.
As we said earlier, there is real appetite out there. just sort of ordinary people. They're not necessarily engaged with politics. I mean, we oppose a lot of this stuff because we know about Agenda 2030 and WEF and all the rest of it. The average person on the street maybe doesn't know that, but they know something's not quite right. And they're just getting bombarded with things that don't make sense and just don't add up. And I think they're just getting bored of it as much as anything else. And you see that in the turnout at elections. At the elections here, 75% of people didn't vote, which is quite a damning indictment of democracy in this country. But just going back to the election again, of that, 25% who did vote, we managed to get just short of 4,000 votes, which in a town this size, sort of 25, 30,000 people is pretty good going from 4 weeks campaigning. So as much as I'd like to sit here and say, it's just because we did a fantastic leaflet and stuff, and that was part of it, but there was appetite out there as well. But just to get more councillors over the line, we needed to get more of those 75% out to vote for us.
So our job now for the next 4 years really is to try and influence those people that didn't vote to vote next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to vote the right way.
Yeah.
Well, that's the trouble is with the electoral system in this country. You've got what's supposed to be a two-party system, but it's actually a one-party system, because they're not. In my view, is Labour and Tory. They're not competing for power; they're sharing power.
Yes.
In turns, like a child with a toy. So and they've got their core vote, and that's what we found here was the majority that got returned were Labour, because they've got their core Labour vote, who will always vote Labour come rain, shine, or zombie apocalypse. Whereas we were trying to get people not only to vote for us, but just to vote, because they've given up on voting, because with good reason, they think it doesn't make any difference. So, but it's telling those people that there is a different way of doing things.
Certainly, it seems to me that the grassroots up is what people are turning to now, because they've seen how top-down has had quite a negative impression on or outcome for people. And it also seems that what with your situation, a lot more people are ready to get interested in what's going on. We've sort of let government just do whatever it wants for the last 20 or 20, 30 something years, whilst we've all just been very busy in our own lives. But slowly, as we start to find these things actually creeping in and actually becoming more of a nuisance, or more than just a little nuisance, they're actually impeding our ability to travel, or they're costing us an arm and a leg. It's very penal and things like that. Do you think that, well, I think you've alluded to it, that people are becoming a lot more interested in actually how their towns are run?
Absolutely, because it's now starting to affect them on a personal level. A lot of the times in the past, you're hearing of the stories, but it's not really affecting many people. Now, the majority of people are being affected by it.
Do you think, this is just a thought that's just come to me, so many of the local newspapers have gone to the wall, or they're just really just full of advertising? And in the old days, I mean, go back past 20 years, perhaps 30, 40 years, people used to read their regular local news quite often and would hear all the stories. Mrs. Jones' cat's just sadly been run over by a steamroller, and they're closing the gates to the old Purley Inn at 5 o'clock because of some funeral or something. But, if there was building work going on, if they were going to have an event, we used to have a carnival here in Worthing, and that hasn't been around for nearly 30 years. It's almost as if that local interest became, that's just too dull and boring. It's too parochial. Do you think we should
sell papers now, aren't they?
Yeah, but do you think that we should be trying to encourage? Maybe there is an appetite for that, so that in a local paper, or even if it's online or in some other format, that people can keep a check on what is going on in the council. They can put a case forward and have councillors answer to what's going on in that way, because it shouldn't really happen that there has to be a mass protest and a surge of people to make something happen. It should be like it used to be, quite a sort of people were just interested. People used to go to the council meetings, didn't they? Okay, it might be going back into the 1950s and 60s, but I remember that in the old films and television programs and things like that. People were very much more interested in their community, but I guess because work has taken people further afield. Much of newspapers, as I say, you no longer read about it anymore. It's almost as if you don't know what's happening in the road across from you anymore.
And it's not just the newspapers either. It's television and
local television,
local radio. I mean, compared to America, to the States, their local news over there is much more vibrant and it's much more important to people. Whereas here, it's kind of after the national news, you get a few minutes of what's supposedly local news, but it's basically just a variation on whatever the national narrative is. It's how is this narrative being played out here where you live? Rather than, again, it's the top down rather than the grassroots up.
Yeah, maybe we need to see that come back, the community stations come back, so that people get much more involved in what's going on, and that the public can then sort of hear stuff and voice their approval or disapproval to things that's happening in their locality. I think people are so bored with mainstream media now, they don't really care whether they've had parties at number 10 in a couple of years ago or whatever. I don't watch the mainstream media, so I have no idea, I have no interest in all of that nonsense. But I would be interested in hearing what's happening locally, because when I walk down the town, it is nice to know if there's a fair in Steen Gardens, where I am, or not. And these days, it's quite hard to find out what's going on.
I think also a big part of the problem is the caliber of journalism these days. Take, for example, East Anglia Bylines. They practically smeared us, and these people aren't even real reporters. It's almost like mates have got together and anyone's allowed to write an article. None of it's ever checked for factuality. I think newspapers, be it online or in physical, in the main part, are dead. I don't think many people really...
No, they're not, like so many other things, they're not providing the function that they're supposed to be providing. They're just not doing their job. And if something's not doing its job, then what's the use of it?
Yeah, well, if they're all biased and they're doing that sort of thing, then I'm happy to watch them wither and die.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But at the same time, whilst they're dying a death, then perhaps we should be calling to those would-be journalists who, we have the tools and we can get stuff out very, very cheaply. You know yourself, running your own film business or video business, that it wouldn't take too much. It's a little bit of capital investment maybe to set. This studio that I'm in here is just a bedroom on my top of my house. It wouldn't take much to get something like this in a space somewhere and do a daily news. It's time consuming, but even if that daily it was just 1 hour show packed with bits and bobs that people have sent in.
Yeah.
There
are a lot of online alternative, mainly on YouTube, granted.
We do. There's Facebook, of course.
Yes.
And there's quite a strong local presence on there on what they call the Thetford Forum. But unfortunately, one of the administrators and owners of that is one of the Labour opposition to us here. So that hasn't really worked in our favour either. So it just keeps coming back to grassroots. So everything that we've done here grew out of Stand in the Park. From the days when it was illegal to go and stand in the park, some of us decided to go and stand in the park.
Excellent.
And we're still standing in the park 3 years later. So we meet up every Sunday, if anybody's ever in Thetford, Sunday morning down by the river near the cinema there. And we still meet up. We talk to people, which is obviously what they don't want us doing. We have a chat, and it's through that we found out about the plans for 20-minute cities, or the proposal for 20-minute cities for Thetford. And through that, we decided to stand. And so that's the perfect template, really, for how to go about doing this and bringing things back down to the local level where the grassroots are.
You've got things like the Light newspaper, which that's kind of public, not public, what was the word? It's a volunteer paper, and that they will hit on subjects which no other mainstream papers will mention. Now, obviously, it's been accused of being far right and goodness knows what else, because that's what the left do.
We've had a fair bit of that as well.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think the grassroots, I mean, you've proved, and this is the thing that we should be focusing on, is the fact that you've proved that grassroots, bottom up, is clearly the new meridian, if you like, and that this is what people feel more encouraged, because it's them doing the work, not someone telling them what they should do. You're making the decisions. You've got together. You've penetrated, if I can put it that way, the council, so that you're doing what it should be, how councils should work. Local people in the council. You're all new time councillors, as you said. And hopefully, collectively, together, you will start doing good stuff. And when these terrible missiles start coming with these, 15-minute cities and cameras and biometrics and all the other shenanigans that are coming down, you'll be able to bat them away quite happily, because there's the people behind you to be able to support everything that you're doing, which is just how a community, in theory, should work.
Pardon me, that is what I would like. That's how I would like to see it roll out.
I think people have just become conditioned over the years recently to just, as I said earlier at the top, was just to see the sort of politicians and the sort of ruling class as an elite who do rule us. And you just turn on your television or your radio in the morning to see what terrible thing they're doing today. And it doesn't have to be like that at all. It's supposed to be the other way around. We're supposed to be telling them what to do. They are public servants. And that was the key message in all of our campaigning, was that we will represent the people. We are not politicians. None of us are in this to become politicians or to have a political career. None of us were doing it to sort of advance our own agenda or ego or anything like that. We didn't really have a leader either. That was quite interesting. Everybody was a proper democracy. So once people get that message, that they understand that it doesn't have to be the way it's been, things will change.
I mean, a lot of people didn't want to do it, but they felt that they had to do it. Because
empowering, though, I should think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then once you've done, and once you start to realise that actually you do have the power as the people down at the grassroots level, that you've actually got the oomph there, then how much more could you do? If that park down the road is looking a bit shabby and all the litter is all over the place, actually, we could make that really nice. Perhaps we'll keep the yobs out over there, and we'll stop the bottles hanging up there where they keep getting broken and dangerous or whatever it is. Instead of just deferring everything to someone else, that the more we realise, I mean, I've been harping on about this for ages, the more we take back the responsibility for stuff right on the ground level, the more we become, instead of like children waiting for the adults to sort of help us out, we become adults again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that I would love to see happen in Thetford is for it to become its own borough again, because it used to be Thetford Borough, didn't it?
Yeah.
So now everything that we want is at the behest of Breckland or Norfolk.
Yeah. The power sort of went in the wrong direction. It went upwards.
Right. Yeah. But if it's gone up, it can come down.
Come back down. What goes up must come down.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see I doubt I will see it in the 4 years that I'm in, but I would like to certainly see it head in that direction.
Brilliant. Well, it's great to have the goals, isn't it? And then to sort of get other people on side, and if they're agreeing with you, as you say, plough towards that to that objective.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, listen, I'm going to wrap it up now, but what you've told me is so empowering and so good for the soul. And I'm sure that, as you said, you've been in touch with lots of other people saying, what's your secret? I wish you the very, very best. It's so good. It's good to have a good story like this. And it shows that all the stuff that other people have been saying, that, we do have the power and all of that, it's true.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll continue to share stuff on my channel so people can stay up to date with what's going on. I mean, the last video I put up was the congratulations, Thetford, and I put up the letter that we sent. So if people want to go and see that, they can actually read the letter that was sent off to Norfolk County.
I will put the link to your channel
Okay.
in
Cool.
the description, and then people can go and search all the bits that they need and keep in touch with your progress, which I'm sure people will be fascinated to see grow. So congratulations! It's really encouraging.
Thank you, and thanks for having us on again.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure.
Brilliant.
So well done. So there we go. That was Kris and Gary, and a big thanks to them for coming on and telling us their successes. I'm so very, very excited to see where that goes, because I think this hopefully will the excitement of this will infest everybody and get more and more small towns, mid-sized towns, and up, and villages, of course, to do the same. And we will push back against the tyranny that is coming down, or is trying to come down. And I think we'll win. So there we go. Do join me again for more of my interviews and my occasional monologues. But for the moment, thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.